Well, hi all. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. Or else I think it is. So, I'm coming on today to talk about my experience with suicide. Before I get into that though, I am going to tell you a wee story about where I am at the minute. I'll let you have a wee look around here. There's Shani. What's the crack? So, this place that I am at the minute is private land, a private forest. It's not always been private land. In fact, the people who now own this land, they used to be from England. And it would have been during probably around Oliver Cromwell's time. So, the King Oliver Cromwell of England, he seen the Irish as barbaric and not even human. And what he did is he deforested the land so that he could set up agriculture, and he made the wolf extinct, and that is said to be the pinnacle point where England took over Ireland. There then was the Battle of Boyne about 50 years later, where King William of Orange took over completely, and then there was serious oppression against the Irish with the penal laws, not allowing them to speak the language, not allowing them to have a house. In fact, all the English landlords owned all of the land and they rented it to the Irish. Then the potato famine came about and millions left and millions died. So that's where I am at the minute, in private land, in a forest, which is beautiful. I don't say it his land because fuck him, he doesn't deserve it. He inherited it and he's a prick. Now back to the Suicide Prevention Day. So I've not really spoke to anyone about this before. Very few people know this. I think only my therapists. I don't know if I spoke about it on a video or not, but I'm going to share with you my experience with suicide. So there's different stages of being suicidal. You can have a suicide thought, you can have a suicide plan, and then you can have a suicide action where you actually attempt to take your own life. Suicide affects many of us. The north of Ireland, where I'm from, was the suicide capital of Europe for a very long time. Not sure if it still is or not. I wanted to take my own life. It's just Shelley. Okay, back to the story. I wanted to take my own life whenever I was in my peak psychosis. My voices were so loud and my delusions were so wild that it wasn't a life. I felt like I couldn't live any longer. It had taken over me so much that I would rather have not been living than to go through with this pain any longer. And I decided that I was going to take my own life. So I think this is like stage 1 or stage 2 of being suicidal. But it all comes down to your thoughts, right? You have a thought that leads to an action, and then that is the outcome. So with your thought process, it really determines how healthy of a life you'll be living determines your self-acceptance, determines everything. I agreed that I would take my own life after I wrote down all of my stories. I sort of actually have the voices to thank for this because they were always telling me not to kill myself, but I was saying, I've got to kill myself. I can't fucking live like this any longer. And I'm pretty sure it was them who said, what about all your stories, all of those lessons that no one's going to be able to hear? Like, how sad would it be that I got to live the life that I have lived and no one else knew about it? Because everything that has happened in my life, there's not a single person in this world that knows all of the events that have happened to me. There are a few people that know a lot of my stories, but there's no one who knows every single one of my stories or the events that have happened in my life. And I wasn't thinking about the lessons that I have learned from them, but the more that I have been analysing my stories, I can see lessons to be learnt from them. Like, I hitchhiked 1,200 kilometres in Western Australia, very close to where the film Wolf Creek was made. I've snorkeled with turtles and sharks. I've climbed Kilimanjaro. I've climbed in the Himalayas. I've been scuba diving to 32 meters. I've done some tremendous things in my life. I've had multiple lovers with many of personal stories, and like, I've had an amazing life. And whenever that pain becomes unbearable, like, you don't think about those good times. So if you're feeling like that, I recommend getting, like, going on Microsoft Word and just writing down all the stories from your life, like all the events that have been good for you. Because whenever you are down in the dumps, your thoughts are so negative. They're demoralizing. They're programming you to go further into the dumps. You have to completely switch it and look the other way around. And by writing, you're able to come to that rational point of view. You're able to find a line that's straight rather than one that goes all wonky and backwards and forwards and worries about the past and thinks about the trauma in the past. I meant to say future there. But that's my experience with suicidal thoughts, and after that I started writing. I wrote for ages. And then I really self-discovered my whole recovery program, including like meditating, exercising, and changing your environment and spending more time in nature. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to try something new. And it's never too late to create a new life for yourself. If you're feeling suicidal, it's because you're not liking the life you're living. And there is a life worth living if you make those first steps. Thanks for listening, and hope everyone has a good day. God bless, and love you all. There's a wee fly.